Foreign Minister of Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, dear Mr. Tahsin Ertuğruloğlu, thank you for receiving us and agreeing to give this interview to TRT World. I'd like to start with asking a general question on the conflict so our viewers can get a better idea before we dive deeper into the issue. Why should the world be concerned about the Cyprus issue?
Well, thank you. Thank you for your interest, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to try to explain what really the Cyprus issue is all about, and to answer to groundless Greek Cypriot and mainland Greek allegations as to what the Cyprus conflict is all about. Now, Eastern Mediterranean is where we are seated, as you know. This geography is probably the most strategic, the most important location in the globe. Almost every major country's interests are involved in this area. There are too many stakeholders. You name it, United States, United Kingdom, Russia, Israel, Arab countries. So it's not just a case of Turkish Cypriots versus Greek Cypriots. It's not just a case of mainland Turkey versus Greece as the two motherlands. The significance of the conflict on the island of Cyprus is mostly due to the location of the island and the fact that every country's interests are involved here. Energy resources, water resources. So it's too strategic for anybody's interests. That's why it's a very significant issue on the agenda of the international community. But, of course, the main difficulty in dealing with the Cyprus issue is the fact that the international community has made the wrong diagnosis of the Cyprus conflict. If you were to ask a Greek Cypriot or a mainland Greek as to how do they define the Cyprus problem, the typical answer is it's a problem that began in 1974 with the so-called Turkish invasion and its continued Turkish occupation of the island of Cyprus. This, of course, is not the Cyprus problem. Yes, there was military confrontation in 1974. Yes, there was Turkish military intervention in 1974, but that does not signify the source of the problem. It signifies the reality that 74 took place because of the Cyprus problem. If the Cyprus problem had begun, as the Greek Cypriots claim or Greece claims, in 1974, then how does one explain the presence of UN forces on the island since 1964? So the wrong diagnosis of the international community, obviously, is this. In dealing with the Greek Cypriots as if they are the legitimate successors of what used to be a partnership republic between Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots, the international community has basically deemed it impossible to find a negotiated settlement to the Cyprus conflict, so long as they treat the Greek Cypriots as the Republic of Cyprus and they treat the Turkish Cypriots as if we are a minority community of that state. As our former late president, founding president Denktaş said years ago, Cyprus problem is a status problem. The status that the Greek Cypriots are allowed to carry, namely the Republic of Cyprus, and the status that is imposed on us, namely the Turkish Cypriot community of that republic. So long as the statuses of the two former partners are kept at where they are, not on equality, then there will continue to be a problem called the Cyprus problem, no matter how many years of negotiations are conducted. So if one is genuinely interested in trying to help solve the problem, then the statuses of the two former partners must be put on par. If the Greek Cypriots are treated as a state, then the reality that Turkish Cypriots have their own state must also be recognized.
So, following your answer, based on what you have told us, can you tell us briefly about the Cyprus negotiation process, the opening of marriage and the Cyprus conflict?
Right. Well, negotiations on the settlement of the Cyprus conflict went on for almost 60 years. Almost, not quite, but almost. 50 odd years. And it was a process called intercommunal talks. And presumably the ones conducting the negotiations were the two community leaders. Greek Cypriot community leader, Turkish Cypriot community leader. And this presumably reflected the equality of the two sides at negotiations, two community leaders. But of course this did not change the fact that the Greek Cypriot community leader, at the same time as being treated as if he is just a community leader of the Greek Cypriots, enjoyed full international recognition as the president of Cyprus. So there was basically an inequality in the statuses of the two sides negotiating. The claimed equality was two community leaders negotiating, but the reality of the process was that the Greek Cypriots were more equal by virtue of the fact that the Greek Cypriot leader was recognized and still is recognized as if he is the president of a non-existent republic called the Republic of Cyprus. So all attempts at a settlement for over 50 years basically failed. Every single time there was the slightest hope of a settlement, Greek Cypriots rejected. The last major proposal was, as you may recall, the Annan Plan. Greek Cypriots said no. In 2017, one last attempt was made in Crans-Montana, Switzerland. That also failed because of the Greek Cypriots' attitude. Obviously, the Greek Cypriots will continue to sabotage any attempt at settlement of the problem so long as they enjoy the comfort of being treated as if they are the Republic of Cyprus, and so long as the Turkish Cypriot partner is treated not as their equal, but as if we are a minority community of that republic calling itself the Cyprus Republic, but in actual fact being a purely Greek Cypriot state. So long as this inequality continues and the Greek Cypriots are allowed by the international community to impose embargoes and restrictions on us, as they do, and they continue to sabotage Turkish, motherland Turkish mainland's international relations as if Turkey is an invading country of the so-called Republic of Cyprus, the Greek Cypriots have no interest in trying to solve the problem of Cyprus the way it should be solved. So the status quo serves the interests of the Greek Cypriots. They are the Republic of Cyprus. They impose embargoes on us. We cannot deal trade-wise directly, no direct flights into TRNC. We cannot even play a football game or a volleyball game or a basketball game with teams from Motherland Turkey. We are under all sorts of restrictions and embargoes. Why? Because the Greek Cypriots are recognized as if they are the Republic of Cyprus. So that's how they portray us to the rest of the world. And actually some foreign ministers have told me many years ago that our biggest problem is the fact that we are seen by the international community as if we are a secessionist ethnic minority of the Republic of Cyprus. This is the Cyprus problem. This nonsense that the Greek Cypriot and Greek mainland Greek propaganda machine dishes out, I basically don't blame them, because that's what they are supposed to do for their national interests, but I blame the international community for giving them that opportunity. Why is the international community doing this? Is it because they don't know the reality? They know the reality better than anyone else, but it serves their national interests, mostly the United Kingdom. Because as you know, the United Kingdom has 2 sovereign base areas on the island, both of which are in South Cyprus. And they are prisoners of their sovereign base areas. They cannot assume policies that will anger the Greek Cypriot side, so that the future of those bases are threatened.
So, Mr. Minister, right at this point, what are the views and expectations of the Turkish Cypriot side for the solution of the Cyprus conflict?
Well, I can easily say that so long as the correct definition of the Cyprus problem is not made, no one can expect a settlement of the problem. First, we must agree on what the problem is. If one side's definition of the problem is the other side's definition of the solution, and vice versa, then no matter how many years we negotiate, 60 years or 600 years, there won't be a negotiated agreement. So once we come to terms with what really the Cyprus problem is, then the settlement of the problem is quite easy. And the settlement of the problem will never be from now on to establish a state between Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots, a new partnership, because we tried that. We tried partnership. It didn't work. Why? Because the Greek Cypriots could not accept the idea that Turkish Cypriots were their equals. So the partnership republic formula was tried, and it failed because the other partner didn't want it to work. So from now on, what we must accept is, if we cannot live together, then the most logical response is to live as neighbors. So the future, in my view, in very realistic terms, is 2 sovereign equal states on the island of Cyprus, living as neighbors, hopefully with good neighborly relations, but not a united state. If anyone is going to claim that the solution can only be a re-established partnership between Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots, they are basically prescribing a formula that will recreate the tragic years that we went through as of 1963, when the Greek Cypriots attacked the Turkish Cypriot people. So that's why I said it's impossible for Turkish Cypriot people and Greek Cypriot people to establish one state within which we will work together for common goals to protect the territorial integrity of the Republic and all of that. This is Alice in Wonderland. This is not going to take place. Why? Because the Greek Cypriots had made it impossible to take place. So the future of the island is something like what Haiti and the Dominican Republic have done. They are 2 states on the same island. So the reality of the Cyprus island is, yes, 1 island, 2 states, 2 peoples, 2 national entities, 2 democracies. So this is the only formula for the way forward. Otherwise, if the international community is going to try to force us into a so-called settlement on federation, or whatever they're going to call it, joint state between Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots, it's a futile attempt. It's not going to work. It's been tried and it failed. And it's going to fail again and again, because we know the Greek Cypriot people. We look at Greece today. What is Greece doing with its relations with Motherland Turkey? I mean, these people, it's not as if they keep their national aims secret. They openly display what their real national aims are, both Greece and Greek Cypriots. So why are we going to give them yet another excuse to do to us again what they did in the 1960s? So future is two states, two sovereign equal states on the same island, hopefully with good neighborly relations. If not, so be it. Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus will continue along its own way together with Motherland Turkey.
Within this context, in the near future, the UN Security Council will discuss its semi-annual report on Cyprus. So what are your expectations from it?
Not a whole lot. United Nations is a disappointment. United Nations is not an organization that is impartial vis-à-vis the Cyprus issue. Quite to the contrary. The United Nations is the problem itself. Why? Because in the General Assembly of the UN, there sits a purely Greek Cypriot state that is called the Republic of Cyprus. So how can the UN pretend to be an impartial actor in dealing with the Cyprus problem? They are part of the problem. They are the problem. They are the ones who maintain the status quo. It is us who are, we are the ones who are constantly trying to change the status quo for reality, not the myth of Cyprus.
Is it kind of a double-faced policy towards Cyprus?
Double-faced or multi-faced? Yes, they will soon, they will extend the mandate of UNFICYP on the island for another 6 months. In doing so, they will do again what they've done all these years, disregarding the will, the consent of the Turkish Cypriot people, and pretending as if the Republic of Cyprus had given its consent for the continuation of UNFICYP on the island of Cyprus. They will do this again. And of course, this time, as we have been warning them for the past 6 months at least, if you do again what you've been doing all these years, there will be repercussions. There will be measures that we are going to be forced to take. And it won't be the continuation of UNFICYP on the island of Cyprus, at least the continuation of UNFICYP in the territory of the TRNC, as if nothing has happened. Things will change.
So, dear Minister, coming to the topic on relationship with foreign countries, we saw some media reports say UK has approved direct flights from the country to the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. If this is true, can you give us the latest on it? If not, is there an indication of this in the coming future?
My response is going to be purely personal. I am not aware of any authorization by London for direct flights. Some former British politicians, including former Foreign Secretary, especially Jack Straw, who have openly stated that TRNC must be recognized. I am not aware of any move by the current British government in that direction in any way at all. My main reason for being doubtful about the contents of your question is what I was saying a few minutes ago about the British sovereign base areas in South Cyprus. Those two sovereign base areas are so vital, so crucial for the interests of the United Kingdom that they cannot in any way endanger the future of those bases by upsetting the Greek Cypriots.
Is it just because of that?
Mainly because of that. The United Kingdom is the one country that knew the Cyprus problem as it really was from day one. Yet, they didn't do anything to help the international community, to help the United Nations organization to approach the problem the way it should be approached. Quite to the contrary, it allowed the Greek Cypriots, the aggressor, the party that destroyed the partnership, the United Kingdom gave them the opportunity to present themselves as if they are the Republic of Cyprus. When the international agreements that created the Republic of Cyprus of 1960 openly said that the legitimacy of the Republic was based on the continuation of the partnership, and that in case the partnership broke down, neither the Greek Cypriots nor the Turkish Cypriots would have the right to claim to be the Republic of Cyprus by excluding the other partner. So even though this was so categorically the case, and the United Kingdom was the one country in the world, apart from the mainlands, Turkey and Greece, the one country in the world they knew the Cyprus problem, allowed the Greek Cypriots to get away with the theft they had committed. So my personal analysis is it's because of the sovereign base areas. They don't want to have headaches for the sake of Turkish Cypriots by treating the two sides on the island on an equal basis, and as such to upset the Greek Cypriots, to who then will initiate campaigns in the south saying British base is out. Now, just because Greek Cypriots will stage activities like that doesn't mean that the British will pack up and leave. But they will have huge headaches, which they don't want to have, for the sake of Turkish Cypriots. The easiest thing is to do is to discriminate against the Turkish Cypriots, to please the Greek Cypriots, and to ensure the future of the two British sovereign base areas. So as such, I don't expect anything from the United Kingdom. And if they prove me wrong, then I shall be delighted, obviously. It's not as if I don't want direct flights. It's not as if I don't want the recognition of the TRNC. As the foreign minister of this country, as a citizen of this country, obviously I want normal relations with everybody. I want direct flights to come in and out of TRNC. I want TRNC to be recognized, obviously. But we cannot do these things by daydreaming. We must be realistic. And this applies not just to the United Kingdom, but to all the other countries who are at times referred to in terms of possible decisions, probable decisions by them to recognize the TRNC.
So regarding this recognition issue, we also saw some reports on Turkish media that Azerbaijan and Pakistan might recognize the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. Is this true? If yes, can you elaborate?
Well, I don't believe it's true. I believe they are only wishful thinking, unfortunately. I am aware that the public awareness in Azerbaijan towards the Turkish Cypriot people is quite positive. The idea of one nation, three states is something that is growing in awareness. But has this transformed to governmental decisions? I haven't seen that. Pakistan, I've been to Pakistan a number of times. I have never been to Azerbaijan. but I've been to Pakistan a number of times recently. Our representative office in Islamabad, I am grateful to Pakistani authorities because the treatment our office receives there is as if TRNC is a fully recognized state by Pakistan, when it isn't. But the treatment we get there is exactly the same as the treatment our Ankara embassy receives in Turkey. So, yes, there is sympathy, yes, there is support. The man on the street has sensitivities about Turkish Cypriots and our problems. But have these been transformed to the decision makers, either in Islamabad or in Baku? I am not aware of such a development.
Last year, President of Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, Ersin Tatar, said the country will inevitably be included in the transit route of the Eastern Mediterranean gas to Europe, either through its mainland or maritime zone. How it will affect the country's political and economic future?
Well, that's an inevitable outcome. The hydrocarbon resources of the Eastern Mediterranean, if they are going to be dealt with economically, then the most viable, the only viable route is via North Cyprus to Turkey and via Turkey to Europe. There is no other way. So this is bound to take place. Any other attempt by the Greek Cypriots and Greece to avoid this route and to try to find other means, other routes, have failed up to now, and they will continue to fail. We kept saying, as you are aware, not just TRNC, but Turkish mainland officials as well. We are united in our position that any attempt in the Eastern Mediterranean vis-à-vis the hydrocarbons issue, any attempt that disregards the status and the rights of TRNC and Turkish mainland, the Turkish side in general, are futile attempts, are bound to fail, and they will fail. There is no way they can be successful.
Within the same context, what do you think about the launch of drilling by the Italian and French energy companies in Block 6 in the Greek Cypriot site's so-called exclusive economic zone?
Block 6, as you are aware, the drilling of the Greek Cypriots, or on behalf of the Greek Cypriots, are conducted in the south sector of Block 6. The north is within the EEZ of Turkish mainland. So they make sure that they don't cross to the north. That's when they would have crossed their boundaries and there will be repercussions. So they are sensitive about not crossing to the north. They are conducting the drillings in their part of Block 6, which is okay. Supposing they find something. Doesn't matter, because the only way that find is going to be economically viable is again via TRNC to Turkey.
We have also seen some news reports indicating that the Greek Cypriot administration is paying 53 million euros to the Greek Cypriot National Guard in order to purchase combat helicopters from France. What are your views on this? Do you plan on making a military procurement to counter such move?
To put the question in its more correct basis, it's not just 53 million. That 53 million was the first installment. And it's not just 6 attack helicopters, 12 attack helicopters in total, and the total cost being 140 million euros to be paid over a period of 10 years in installments. Now, first I want to say that if these helicopters are bought against the TRNC, they're too much. If they are bought to counter Turkey, never enough. No matter if they buy 22 helicopters or 112 helicopters, it doesn't matter. There is no way Greek Cypriots will have any chance of a military success against Turkey. And since TRNC is not alone in its future in the Eastern Mediterranean, and Turkey, Motherland Turkey, will always be with us. So it's fruitless for Greek Cypriots to consider arming themselves to deal with the TRNC, because TRNC is not alone. There is Turkey with us all the way. But the most important aspect of this, in my view, is that these helicopters are bought from a permanent member of the UN Security Council. In addition to France, the United States recently lifted the arms embargo that was installed for South Cyprus. Russia, as we all know, the Orthodox alliance with Greek Cypriots. United Kingdom, we just talked about, where they fail. So basically, and the Chinese, look at what they're doing to the Uyghur Turks. So if we talk about the United Nations, in the General Assembly there is a Greek Cypriot state calling itself Cyprus. In the Security Council, we just listed where each single permanent member of the Security Council is situated, what they are doing. This again signifies to us that the United Nations organization, led by the Security Council members, is not an impartial institution that is capable of dealing with the Cyprus problem the way it should be dealt with, and in trying to settle the problem. And that is why our position that the United Nations organization is the problem itself is justified.
So when it comes to economic, financial side of it, can Greek Cypriots afford such procurement, long-term procurement? Because Greece has been doing the same against Turkey, we know it, and we also know about the financial burden it will be facing in the future. So what about Greek Cypriot side?
That's something that they must consider themselves. It's not my problem. My concern is that they are buying attack helicopters from a permanent member of the UN Security Council. Whether they will be able to afford it, whether the French will donate the helicopters at some stage, I couldn't care less. We all know that they are bankrupt. They were bankrupt because of Greece. The EU has taken them out of bankruptcy. The Russians lost huge amounts of money in the south. The banks wrote off Russian accounts and all of that. So obviously, financially, they are not in a strong position, yes. But in spite of this, they are arming themselves like crazy. And that's what's important to us. I mean, who are we to tell them, look, you are justified to buy these things, but in all honesty, you can't afford to pay for them, so don't buy them. Whether they can afford to or not, they are buying them. How they are going to be able to pay for those, it's their problem.
In the past few days, we have seen a potential new NATO members, Sweden and Finland. They have promised Turkey to stop their support to PKK and YPG and its other branches.
Yeah.
So when it comes to Greek Cypriot side, the sympathizers of the PKK and PYD, terrorist organizations, recently conducted provocative military activities in some cities belonging to Greek Cypriot side. So what is your opinion on this?
It's not surprising. PKK has been based in South Cyprus for many years. They have training camps there. The attitude of Greek Cypriots is any enemy of my enemy is my friend. So PKK Greek Cypriot collaboration is a well-known activity. As you know, Abdullah Öcalan, when he was caught in Africa, he was carrying a Greek Cypriot diplomatic passport. So this is not something new. It's a well-established reality. It's their choice. I mean, Greek Cypriots, if they had any brains at all, they should be considering how to improve their relations with Motherland Turkey, so they can also benefit from these improved relations. But the way to improve their relations with Motherland Turkey is to make sure that they deal with the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus the way TRNC should be dealt with, to deal with the Turkish Cypriot people in a manner that we should be treated. So by continuing to implement policies based on the belief that Cyprus is a Hellenic island, in continuing to deal with the Turkish Cypriot people as if we are merely a community of a Greek Cypriot state, and then expecting improved relations with Motherland Turkey, is an impossibility. So I hope one day they will mature, they will grow up, and they will come back to their senses, so that everybody in the Eastern Mediterranean will enjoy the stability that will be created as such. The only actors who spoil the tranquility in the Eastern Mediterranean are the Greeks and the Greek Cypriots.
Turning back to Cyprus and two-state solution issues, Turkish Cypriots and Turkey have long said that one of the obstacles on the way of finding a common ground with Greek Cypriots is their refusal to have an equal status with the Turkish side. Why are Greek Cypriots refusing an equal status with Turkish Cypriots? What is the main issue?
It's their obsession with treating the island of Cyprus as if it's a Hellenic island, within which Turkish Cypriots are not their equals, within which Turkish Cypriots can at best be what the Armenians and Maronites are in South Cyprus. So long as the international community treats the Greek Cypriots as if they are the Republic of Cyprus, there is no way the Greek Cypriots will wake up one day and say, oops, we made a mistake all these years. Thank you, world, for treating us as if we're the Republic of Cyprus, but we are not. There is no way they will do that. Every step along the way, they will continue to pretend to be the Republic of Cyprus because the rest of the world gives them that opportunity. That is why I said earlier, I don't blame the Greek Cypriots for this. I blame the international actors who give them that opportunity. And Turkey will never, ever allow this island to be a Hellenic island. This island was never a Hellenic island. Quite to the contrary, this island was part of the Ottoman Empire for over 300 years. So if there is anyone who is going to claim that the island is it's the Turkish side. This was Ottoman territory for over 300 years. When was this island a Hellenic island? Never. Turkish Cypriots have never been a community of a Hellenic republic in our past, in history. The Republic of Cyprus was established between two political equals. The Republic of Cyprus was not established on the grounds that the Greek Cypriots are the majority and Turkish Cypriots are the minority, and that we are going to have minority rights. That's not the Republic of Cyprus. Quite to the contrary. Utter, complete political equality. I can give you examples of what that political equality was. But the Greek Cypriots could not digest that idea. They accepted the Republic of Cyprus because they were forced to accept it, with the idea of dissolving it at the earliest opportune time, which they did. And again, to reiterate, the countries led by the United Kingdom allowed them to present a myth to the rest of the world that Greek Cypriots are the Republic of Cyprus.
As you have mentioned the realities when it comes to Cyprus, what would pave the way for official recognition of Turkish Cypriots? How close has the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus come thus far to get the international recognition by the global community?
The most important country to the Turkish Cypriot people, Motherland Turkey, recognizes the TRNC. That's the most important factor for us. To date, we have not actively sought a policy of recognition. We sought recognition through the negotiating process, and that with the if the process succeeded to come up with a formula, with a settlement, that our recognition will come with that settlement. But since that process is over and done with, since 2017, there are no negotiations. And if there are going to be new negotiations from now on, as I said, since 2017, there are no negotiations. At the moment, the UN organization presumably is trying to determine if there is common ground between the two sides to start negotiations. And I openly say that there is no common ground. There will not be common ground. We are not going to compromise from our policy of two sovereign equal states and equal international political status. Likewise, the Greek Cypriots are not going to compromise on their claim to be the Republic of Cyprus by themselves, because the rest of the world treats them as if they are the Republic of Cyprus. So long as the positions of the two sides respectively are like this, then there can never be a common ground for new negotiations. There is only one way out of this. The international community must find a face-saving way, formula, out of the discrimination that they have committed against the Turkish Cypriots all these years. We have turned a new page in Cyprus. The ball is not in our courts, though. We are not going to change our policy. We don't expect the Greek Cypriots to change their policy. The only change of policy can come, if it's ever going to come, and that's a big if, I don't expect it to, but maybe it will someday, from the international community. If they decide to put an end to the discrimination against the Turkish Cypriots that they have caused all these years, then they must find a face-saving formula out of this discrimination and treat the Greek Cypriots through a new policy that will mean redefinition of their recognition. I'm not saying don't recognize the Greek Cypriots, because there is a Greek Cypriot state. I'm not saying they don't have a state, they have a state. But this state should not be recognized as if it is the Republic of Cyprus. It should be recognized as what it is, a Greek Cypriot state. If the international community is going to give the Greek Cypriots the signals that their recognition as if they are the Republic of Cyprus is coming to an end, and they will be treated as who they are, a Greek Cypriot state, then things may change on the island of Cyprus vis-à-vis the relations between the two states and the settlement of the problem. Anything other than that is a waste of time. European Union dimension is a waste of time. European Union should be ashamed of its policies towards the island of Cyprus, for the very fact that they have accepted a purely Greek Cypriot state, representing presumably the Republic of Cyprus, contrary to the Copenhagen criteria for membership. Because Copenhagen criteria for membership, as I'm sure you're aware, they are the ones which are used to keep Turkey out. And when it comes to Greek Cypriot application, all of a sudden, everyone forgets about the Copenhagen criteria.
And even though there is an ongoing disputed border issue,
sure,
they accept
and there are UN troops on the islands since 1964. They accept the Greek Cypriots as if it's in fact, they labeled Greek Cypriot application as the most appropriate candidate. This is what I said. This is what I meant when the European Union should be ashamed of itself. Why did they do this? To avoid mainland Greek veto of the enlargement, which the Germans wanted badly. So European Union, on pieces of paper, may have great, grand ideals, norms, standards, human rights, supremacy of law, and all of that, which everyone applauds. Yes, fine. But it has shown to us that when it comes to serving the political interests of a member country, all of these things which they claim they represent go down the drain by violating their own criteria, so that Germany is pleased and Greece avoids vetoing the enlargement, and Greek Cypriots go in as if they are the Republic of Cyprus. So these are the realities of the island of Cyprus, of the Cyprus conflict. When we say these things, we are accused for being intransigent. We are not supposed to say these things. But no matter who is pleased or displeased about what we keep saying is the reality, and there is no power on earth that will convince either Motherland Turkey or us from maintaining this position, which is the only position that can be maintained vis-à-vis the island of Cyprus.
Your Excellency, Mr. Minister, would you like to add anything else?
Well, obviously, Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, we have a duty in the Eastern Mediterranean. Our duty is to help the interests of the Turkish nation. We are part of the Turkish nation. We didn't come to this island from the moon. Our ancestors came here from Anatolia. We are Turkish, who happen to live on the island of Cyprus. There is no nation called Cypriots. You're either a Greek Cypriot or a Turkish Cypriot, or one of the minorities, Armenian or Maronite. So it is our duty in the Eastern Mediterranean, sitting on this island, to ensure that Turkish nation's interests are served, because we are only as strong as our motherland, Turkey, is strong. So there are many countries who are trying to put a divide between us and motherland Turkey. There is no way that is ever going to be allowed to succeed.
Thank you so much for having us. We are so glad to be hosted by you, Mr. Minister.
Thank you for your interest.
Thanks for your time.
Our best greetings to Motherland Turkey.
Thank you so much.